What's up, guys? Hey, love to see everybody clicking that subscribe and play and all those buttons that I don't even know where they're at or anything. But thanks for listening. I am back on the hub of fantasy football. I am your host Uriah, and I co-host Mr. Foley. How you doing?
All right, Mike Folacek here, and real quick, just want to tell you about today's sponsor. This one is a deep cut for our day one listeners. A few of you will know about this business, and we wanted to give them a shout out. It is Pine Belt Industries, your one-stop shop for mailboxes, fish bait, and plasticware. Pine Belt Industries. Check them out. Thank you.
So, going on, before we get into our picks, want to go over a little bit of housekeeping and just go over a few things. Foley, what I was looking at was people who we are afraid of. We've had the 4 weeks, and it's week 5, and now we're getting into the buys. So, who are you afraid of? You can take it out wherever you want to go with it.
Yeah, the first one that jumps to mind for me is Patrick Mahomes. And I think we're going to talk more about that situation in a little bit, but it's been a pretty rough year for Mahomes. Look, don't get me wrong. I still think he is the second greatest quarterback of all time. But this is a rough year for him right now. He has not looked himself. He's made a lot of bad decisions, and as much as the refs are helping him, they're not helping him as much as they usually do. And now losing Rashee Rice on top of that, I don't think is going to help the situation. I don't know. He's struggling a little bit. Similarly, I would say Jalen Hurts. His numbers have continued to be okay, but he's been making a lot of mistakes as well, and it just worries me. And then there's, the second tier or third tier of guys maybe. Kirk Cousins, Aaron Rodgers, those guys I'm getting increasingly worried about. I think it'll get better for Cousins. I don't know about for Rodgers. And then, the Justin Herberts of the world, I think, are kind of a complete bust at this point.
Yeah, and you said Kirk Cousins, and this is probably going to be strange. I know I said, like Foley said, week 1, we had our takes, blah, blah. It is week 5. I believe 2 weeks ago I said Sam Darnold Pro Bowl. I'm going to throw this out there. I think Sam Darnold is a better quarterback than Kirk Cousins.
Interesting. Now, here's where I'll push back. All right, first of all, if you're going to take credit for 2 weeks ago saying Sam Darnold Pro Bowl, let's go 2 weeks before that.
And I said don't pick him.
Exactly.
I know. I said that, and I agree. But what do you think about that? Because Cousins on the Vikings.
Yeah.
Darnold on the Vikings.
Yeah. It's an interesting comp. I would go Cousins. I'm getting off that Darnold bandwagon. We had our 3.5 good games. I don't know, man. I kept saying we've seen this 3-game sample size of Sam Darnold coming out hot before, and then he suddenly remembers he's Sam Darnold. And if you watch the first half of that game, for the most part, you'd say, okay, he's keeping it up. He's keeping it up. There was one really bad play in there for him, but otherwise he looked really good. But then he came out in the second half, and he just looked like the Sam Darnold we've always seen, and he almost blew this huge lead. It wasn't all his fault, but a lot of it was. He just wasn't executing. They were getting into the red zone and not able to score. And I'm not saying I'm out on Sam Darnold, because you're right. It's a good offensive system they have there in Minnesota. They've got, obviously, Justin Jefferson. That helps any quarterback a lot. But I don't know. I would be afraid of Sam Darnold right now. He's giving me the Sam Darnold vibes.
I understand, and I get that. I think one of my people I'm afraid of, and I have him on other dynasties, and I know Foley's going to be like, yank that rod back from me, but Kyle Pitts might be the biggest bust of the 2020s.
All right. Just so everyone, I have a confession to make. I'm going to open up here on this podcast. I was really hoping we could have Evan here for this.
Real talk.
But it's okay. We're going to get real. We're going to get serious for a minute. For everyone listening, I just want you to know that Uriah and I are holding hands as I say this. I am out on Kyle Pitts.
Now, saying that, I better not hear, but Ray. We're not talking about Ray.
There is a little bit of a but with Ray. But we can get into that later.
No, we're talking about who we're afraid of.
I am out on Kyle Pitts. Now, I think your take is too strong with the biggest bust of 2010s. There were bigger busts in that
I said,
draft class.
what, 20s?
Or in the 2020, whatever it was. There were bigger busts in his draft class. Zach Wilson was in that draft class.
But
Trey Lance was in that draft
class. But they
class.
could have took a cornerstone.
I agree. They were
for the
picks.
franchise.
And look, as much as we talked about this a little bit in the chat, as much as I have always liked Kyle Pitts, I thought he was a bad pick at the time.
Yeah.
I thought that he went way too high.
I was excited. I love Kyle Pitts at Florida. And like I said, I drafted him out of our dynasty, and he has killed me for 4 years.
I am out on Kyle Pitts. I am not waiting any longer. I am still forced to start him as a flex in one league because I'm just that desperate. But overall, I'm not interested in Pitts anymore. He's hurt me too many times. He would have shown us by now. I think the talent is there. I think there has to be something mental. I think there has to be something with not learning the playbook or what.
I'm not even going to guess, and I don't know. Also, a running back, and I was offered this guy a while ago for a trade, but Ramondre Stevens. Yeah, he's on the out. I think he's walking out that door at Walmart checking his receipt.
You know, it's interesting. This wouldn't, if Bill Belichick were still the head coach of the Patriots, this wouldn't even be a question. He's the best player on that offense.
He's been going to game one.
Exactly, but that fumble thing, there would be no possibility. Even Gerard Mayo, though, is saying they might turn to Antonio Gibson as the starter now.
That's not much better,
no.
but
I mean, that's the thing. It's hard. Again, Ramondre is the best player they have.
I agree.
So do you just suck it up and accept that he's going to fumble once every game? Or do you say, we'll just make this offense even worse, tank for that number 1 overall pick, get Travis Hunter in there, or whoever? I don't know. It's hard to say. But, it's not a good situation. I think with Ramondre's fumble problems, it goes from there being one great fantasy asset to 0 on that team.
I mean, Hunter Henry's your leading wide receiver for, I think I've got him for 40 yards this week. And that's your leading receiver.
Yeah, it's rough. It's rough.
So, moving on, we'll check this one out. Do you have any trade highs?
Yeah, someone I just did trade high, as a matter of fact. So, big shout out to our co-host, Evan, for being the first customer of the Emporium this year. But we did just complete a trade. I'd love your thoughts on it, Uriah. DeAndre Swift for Rome Odunze.
I'm indifferent, honestly. I don't know who you're going to get each week from either one of them. I think the Bears are a upcoming team, but when I say upcoming, I mean real NFL. As far as fantasy, there's too many people to pick from, and I don't think Caleb is experienced enough to give everybody a taste. I feel like he's going to aim toward one guy, and that guy's going to get the ball for that game. And, this game is going to be Swift, next game is going to be Odunze. So, I mean, you're kind of guessing with them.
So, I'll give kind of my Foley spin is what James would call it, but what I think is kind of my nuanced take of this. And this was just for anyone listening who's in a different league, I think that this is a pretty classic sell high and buy low. People were really low on Odunze coming out of, he just had a pretty bad game, and Swift just had a 30-point game. He hadn't finished in the top 30 among running backs in the previous 2 weeks. Here's the thing. Swift is going to be better than he was those first few weeks, but he's not going to be as good as he was this week. I think that he's a really efficient, I hate to even say efficient, he's a flashy running back. He's not always the best at finding the holes, but he can be a home run hitter. He shouldn't be a high volume guy. And that's where I think we're going to see more and more Roschon Johnson coming into play. That said, Swift can still be a valuable fantasy player for you, even if he's not high volume. And Odunze, what I was scared of him at draft time, and if you remember, I penalized I was like, anyone who drafts a Bear or a Texan, I'm going to penalize you in the draft for that.
Yeah. With
Odunze, what we've seen now is he is taking the snaps in 2 wide personnel, so 12 personnel. Keenan Allen is slot only, and when they don't have a slot receiver on the field, Rome Odunze is still on the field. That's what I was worried about. There was a lot of uncertainty there, but he is clearly the number 2. So he's going to get enough playing time, and I think Caleb is getting better. I think if you watch the Bears week to week, Caleb and that offense as a whole get a little bit better every week. And so long term, I think that things will get better for Odunze down the road. I believe in the talent. I believed that Odunze was right up there, not quite as good as Malik Neighbors and Marvin Harrison Jr., but right up there with them. So I think the talent wins out over time.
Gotcha.
I think it's a good trade for both sides. And the only other one I would say sell high right now, I'm not doing it. I own this guy, but if you're in another league, you might look into selling Dalton Kincaid while you can. I don't know how many great games he's going to have, and it wasn't a great game, but it was an okay game he just had. I'm holding on to him because I also have Josh Allen, and I love having the stack. But
I would take
rough.
Kincaid any day. That's just me.
I hope you're right. I hope he pans out.
So I'm going to skip one, but this is kind of a funny one. What happens first, Foley? Does Christian McCaffrey play his first game, or does the Jags head coach get fired? What happens first?
I think Doug Peterson gets fired first. I really do. I am getting more and more to where I don't think Christian McCaffrey plays this year. It just doesn't. The vibes aren't good. When we found out that it was in his second foot.
Well, what I try and tell, what I think is, you go to the doctor, James Andrews, whoever the ankle doctor, foot doctor is in the States, but you go to them to get fixed. CMAC has went to Germany.
Yeah.
So if you're going to Germany, there's some kind of special procedure being done, or some cryo stuff, or who knows what they're doing over there. They're injecting with baby octopus embryos. Who knows? So
things aren't going well if you have to travel overseas for your medical care.
Exactly. So I'm with you. I think Dan. Dan?
Doug Peterson.
Doug.
Yeah.
Why am I saying Dan? I think he's gone maybe next 2 weeks.
I don't know if it's that soon.
Well, they play the Colts, and then I think it's the Bears, and then somebody else. And if you are losing to the,
that's true.
I think it's three. The next three, I think sometime within those three, he's going to be gone.
The Colts have their number too. The Colts are really good against the Jags. That's true. I think if you might be right. If he loses this week, that might be it for him. I don't know. I always hate firing coaches mid-season, but you might be right.
And saying that, now pay attention to this, guys. You hear this first on our podcast. I believe if they stick a general manager that has been with Belichick, next year Belichick will be the coach for the Jags. But it's only if they get a general manager that has been with Belichick before.
Look, I'm going to be a fan of wherever Belichick goes. I have this sinking feeling that he might end up with Dallas, and I don't want to have.
That's
to root
another
for
bet
Dallas.
to go. Who do they go with?
Yeah, I don't want to root for Dallas, but I feel like I might. Look, dark horse candidate, I would say, to be head coach of the Jags next year is air raid specialist
Don't say it.
Cliff Kingsbury. I mean, I don't know.
I don't see it, but I feel like that owner has so much stake in basketball, baseball, golf, all this other sports. I feel like he wants to make a splash. He thought he had it this year, and he didn't.
I'd be a Jags fan if Belichick went there. Yeah. By the way, you didn't tell me, is there anyone you would say sell high, buy low right now?
Not particularly. Off the top of my head. You know me. There are a few people I have big takes on.
Oh, I know what you're gonna say.
I'm not gonna say what you think I'm gonna say. All I'm going to say is, when I tell you guys that so-and-so is going to have 75 yards and a touchdown, do not start him. Go with somebody who has a better upside, because I know what I'm talking about.
What Uriah really wants to say...
I'm not saying it.
He wants to say is sell high on Jaden Daniels.
Yes, I am saying that.
Okay.
Okay, it's out there. get rid of Jaden Daniels. This bus is going to come to a screeching halt sooner than later. So, Foley, let's go ahead and get into our Week 5 matchups. Now, this is the gauntlet of buys. This is where the boys are separated from the men, and this section is brought to you by Ray Ray's Septic Service, where their motto is, we do. So moving on, guys.
Is that Ray Ray McLeod's Septic Service?
I didn't throw a last name out there. It's just Ray Ray.
Okay.
So our first matchup is going to be the Bucks and the Falcons. Snooze fest. So I'll let you start since you are the big Falcons fan.
I'm not a Falcons fan.
And the Buccaneers fan.
And I'm not a Buccaneers fan, but there are some players on both sides that I love. I mean, look, this feels like a trap game to me.
It does.
Because
Yeah,
I
agree.
like this matchup. This seems like an exciting matchup on paper, but it's also Thursday night. And so it can't actually work out, right?
I know it's like I want to give you my takes, but then you need to subtract like 30% from that.
Exactly.
It's so scary.
Exactly. Here's what I'll say. And let's just get it out of the way, because you know I've got to talk about it. So let's just get this out of the way first.
He's starting Ray Ray, guys.
I'm not in this league. I am forced to in another. That's how gross it's gotten in my work league, is I had to pick up Ray Ray and stick him in my starting lineup.
Which you just tickled you all kind of
It
pink,
kinda
didn't it?
did.
I know it did.
But here's the thing. Here's my lukewarm take. If ever there were a week for Ray Ray McLeod, who everyone is so uninterested in, to have a good game, wouldn't it be on Thursday Night Football?
It would.
Wouldn't that be a Thursday night thing to happen? Ray McLeod
And
goes
honestly, look, I can't disagree with you, although I want to. The leading receiver for the Falcons is Mooney.
Yep.
I'm going to say, and I'll go over my picks, but I put Mooney. My baseline for everybody, guys, is like 50 yards. So I got Mooney or / Ray Ray or / Drake London. One wide receiver is going to have 75 and 1 touchdown. And that's not much of a saying anything. So what do you think about their wide receivers? Do you think Mooney is the number one, or if he's who's the de facto number one?
Mooney really has looked like the number one. I think London's getting better. He is coming around, but in the last, I would say, 2 games, Mooney really has been Kirk's go-to.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's by design necessarily. I just think that when Kirk feels the slightest bit of pressure, he's like, there's Darnell Mooney.
Yeah.
They've got Mooney on a lot of underneath routes. Sort of what it is right now is it's Mooney underneath, Ray Ray in the midfield, and then just a little bit further down the field is Drake London.
Yeah.
So the short stuff goes to Mooney, and it's worked out. He's looked explosive. He's looked good. I'm kind of kicking myself for not taking a shot on him. I've never been a Mooney guy, but yeah, I'm still comfortable with any 3 of those Atlanta wide receivers.
Okay.
I'm out on Kyle Pitts, but I'm okay with all 3 of the receivers. Bijan is an interesting one. I predicted a big game for Bijan, and then they just barely used him in the second half.
I know you also picked a big game for Kyler, but
Well, we're going to get into that,
too.
too.
Okay, I'm sorry. I just had to throw that out there.
Yeah, I know. It was a great week for the bust lineup. It was a great week for my picks of who would win and lose in Hup South. Not a good week for the boom lineup. Bijan was one of them, and he just it felt like Arthur Smith was there again.
It did. It did feel like a bad Arthur Smith game.
Yeah.
So taking that, I'm not even getting into the predictions yet, but who wins, the Falcons or the Bucks?
Oh, the Bucks.
I think so also. We'll move in. I think Cousins, is going to be a borderline. I would not start him in a regular league. I got him for 225 and 1. Bijan is a start. I feel like he's going to be a must start.
Yeah.
Through every game. I got him
Absolutely.
for 101. Anything else on the Falcons? Or
No. I do still believe that Bijan Robinson finishes as a top 5 running back in fantasy football.
I don't think that's a reach.
I know that there's concern about his usage. I think he still gets there.
So, for the Buccaneers, now this is a good one. A lot of you listeners may not know the infatuation between Foley and Michael Evans But I'm going to throw this question: who's the number one, Evans or Goodwin?
So I think
Put your
they're
bias aside.
setting my bias aside, they really are 1A, 1B, and it's hard to say a true number one. As far as target volume, it's Godwin. For sure it's Godwin. But when Baker comes down to I've got to make a play, it's Mike Evans. And they coexist really well in that way. Mm-hmm. Godwin's just kind of the consistent chain mover, and then Evans is the big game guy. And it works out. And yes, I am a huge Mike Evans fan. I've had him in this league every single year since his rookie season.
And he will reach for him, guys.
I sure will. And it's worked out. You know what? It has worked out for me. I think they're both great. The running backs are interesting to me. We've talked a lot about the Bucky and Rachaad White split.
It's got to be Bucky.
You know something I've put together and learned? If you look at their splits, it's kind of, I almost feel bad for Rachaad White. I don't really, because I've never thought he's a great running back. Rachaad White is playing all the rushes in zone when they're doing zone runs, and all the rushes in gap runs are going to Bucky Irving. It is an almost even split that way. Like, Bucky gets 100% of the gap, Rachaad White gets 100% of the zone. But they're both gap runners. They're both built to be gap runners. So Rachaad White's just kind of getting a short end of the stick. He is still getting some receiving volume, so that's his saving grace. But yeah, Bucky is taking over the backfield, whether it's fair or not. And I do think Bucky's fairly talented. I'm not as high on him as you as a player, but I think he's fairly talented. He is going to overtake it. Right now, if I had, and I haven't gotten as deep into the research this week as I normally am by the time we record. I would try to stay away from both running backs in this game.
I would too. What about that Laser Baker?
Man,
looking good.
I'm not all in on him. I had said I needed one more game and I would be all in. And then he had a crap game, and now he's had a good game again. I need one more good game from him, and I'm all in on Baker.
This is like Sam Darnold. I mean, it's the exact same thing.
It is.
You see it, and you're like, oh, okay. It's like going up on that roller coaster.
Yeah.
It's like you cannot wait. You get to the top of the roller coaster, and you're like, man, this is a letdown.
By the way, I'm glad you said that, though, made that comparison, because I remember a year ago, I think it was, we had seen Geno Smith have this comeback after a long time. We had Baker Mayfield come back after a long time. And I think it was in the Hub South chat we were talking about, who's going to be the next one who can do that? And I said, it might be Sam Darnold. And here we are. So, it's interesting.
I feel like there's a handful of teams in the NFL who honestly have those Joe Flacco mold guys. Geno, Baker, Sam Darnold, or just a few. I'm sure we can name
Andy Dalton.
Andy Dalton. I mean, they're placeholders. They're Pittsburgh.
Not
Fields. Fields is he's a hey, don't mess up guy. That's all it is.
I think Baker's doing more than that, though. Baker is
this year he is, but I still compare him to that.
Yeah, Baker's really come into his own. I'm happy for him. I'm still not all in. He gives me one more game though, one more good game, and I'm like all in on Baker. He can take him to a Super Bowl.
So moving on, I will say Baker is going to have he's going to have a big game. He's a must start with 275 and 2. I got Bucky with 75, and I got Evans and or Godwin for 101. Moving on, we got the Jets versus the Vikings. This is going to be a great game.
You know why I'm making that sound, right? You know why I'm sighing.
Probably.
London.
I know. It's the, what is it, 8 o'clock game?
8:30 a.m.
It's
Central.
It's going to suck. But
8:30 a.m.
It is what it is. So let's start with the Jets this time. Future employer of Devontae Adams. Besides, I would love to just start going, you know what? I don't think I'm a good fit here anymore. Can I leave?
Can you just send me to this other place?
Could you just send me somewhere? But I don't want to go there.
And I don't want to even have an interview or anything.
I just want to be able to go.
You just tell me. Yes.
That's the future of jobs.
That'd be something.
So, how do you feel about the Jets, especially after last week's debacle?
I'm pretty down on the Jets. Not to pile on. Yeah, it was rough them against Denver, but I've said all along that. I mean, look, who is their offensive coordinator? You tell me, who is the offensive coordinator for the New York Jets?
I know where you're going with this.
It's Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah,
it is
I
not
know.
Nathaniel Hackett. And Aaron Rodgers is not a good offensive coordinator, and neither is Nathaniel Hackett. Look, Rodgers is an amazing player. Don't get me wrong.
But he's from the hip. I mean, he's almost like Brett Favre. I mean,
well,
to a certain point.
He's very risk averse. I'll give him that. My problem though is just that what he wants to do, the way he wants to play football, is just not the way to play football anymore. It just doesn't work. And he's great at the free plays when he gets them, but that's about it. He's had 5 touchdowns through 4 weeks. That's pretty sad. I'm down on all the Jets at this point. I feel like
they don't have an alpha to tell them to lead them.
So that's what you want Devontae for?
He would be better than Aaron Rodgers leading them because Aaron Rodgers isn't a leader.
No, he's not. I don't think Adams is either, though.
I don't think he is either.
And
but
I don't think Robert Saleh is doing it. I thought Saleh could be. I thought Saleh would be a good coach.
So too.
I'm a little disappointed in him. Breece Hall is getting scary. I mean, he's losing work to Braylon Allen. I don't think it's as bad as it looks.
That might be a sell.
Maybe.
Get rid of him while you could.
Low. I think you'd be selling too low.
But like you said, Braylon.
I know Braylon's there. I don't think this is like Bucky Irving taking over Rachaad White. I don't think it's that. I think Breece Hall is still going to be. I don't know if I would not go top 5, but I would go top 10. He still finishes in the top 10 among running backs.
That's interesting.
Allen Lazard's still the leading receiver, and that's gross.
Scary.
That's gross. You'd want there to be more from Garrett Wilson. We've talked about these Ohio State wide receivers, and Chris Olave. Chris Olave is doing better, but still,
they're all in the. I know.
Yeah, I don't know. I think you're still starting Garrett Wilson and not starting Allen Lazard. But
personally, I wouldn't start anybody on the Jets this week. Personally,
I would try to avoid starting Rodgers if I can help it. I mean, look. I talked to you guys last week about embracing the one quarterback life. My review, it's pretty fun. Our co-host Evan took an L against the one quarterback team. I enjoyed the one quarterback life, and I'm probably going to do the same thing again this week.
But it's also out of need and not necessity. Out of necessity and not want. So
I had the option to start Jacoby. It worked out for me, and I'm doing it again this week. I would look at alternatives. I would even look at non-quarterback alternatives to Aaron Rodgers.
I agree with that.
Because I mentioned last week the Minnesota defense.
Good team.
It's confusing the hell out of quarterbacks, and Rodgers is different. And they've been going up against all these young quarterbacks, Jordan Love, Brock Purdy, C.J. Stroud. Now they're going up against the oldest quarterback in the league. But even still...
Yeah, but the Broncos hurting.
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm not confident that Rodgers is going to be able to diagnose this defense. It's just a confusing defense.
Well,
the way they apply pressure is confusing.
Well, talking about the Vikings, I have the Vikings as a must-start for everybody.
Hard to argue. Well,
okay,
let me ask you this.
I know you're going to talk about Darnold, but I got Darnold for 275 and 2.
Yeah, I'm okay with starting Darnold. I'm getting worried, but I think until he disappoints you in a major way, you do have to start him. I'm just worried that the disappointment's coming soon. My question for you, Jordan Addison.
Oh, start him.
You're starting Jordan
Start
Addison.
him. I got JJ as the leading receiver. I got him for 102 touchdowns. I'm going to say start Addison. I'm going to say start Aaron Jones. I don't think his matchup is great, but I think it's enough to get you a easy flex.
Okay.
You got anything or?
No. I mean, I agree with everything. I'm not sure where I land on Addison yet. I really don't. I'm probably going to come back to Addison throughout this and give you this guy or Addison. But yeah, no, I think Aaron Jones is a must start, and Darnold and Jefferson. Yeah, that's all pretty self-explanatory.
All right, moving on. We got a showdown, which is I'm interested to see what Foley thinks about this. But I got the Ravens and the Bengals. Who do
Yeah.
you want to start with?
We'll start with the away team. They're coming off their huge Sunday night football victory. Boy, King Henry.
He's a hoss.
Whew. We were worried after week 1.
We weren't, but 5 carries to do that to you.
Man, he's come around.
What did I say? He's like that old quarter pounder or a Big
You
Mac.
did.
I mean, you don't want it, but you got to get it.
You did. This is the first year I've ever owned Derrick Henry in any league, by the way. I never had him anywhere the entire time he was a Titan. I was always a little too low on him, and this year I was like, I'm not going to be too low on him.
Man, he's just that. You start him and you don't fool with it anymore the rest of the year. I know it was hard the first week. After the first week,
It was a little hard, but he still had a touchdown even in that game.
Yep.
He just kind of disappeared after the touchdown. So no, man, and I have Lamar in that same league, by the way. I have Lamar Henry stack, and it's
That's
pretty
good.
fun.
That's
It's pretty
good.
fun. Here's my big question for you, though. I'm going to skip straight to the tight ends. No. Do you cut Mark Andrews at this point? Do you just cut him?
I think you have. I don't want to say this because it hurts me, but I think you have to. I don't see, in each game you have ebbs and flows, up and a down. But when you have 4 straight downs, it's you got to make a roster spot.
Yep.
You don't want to, but you got to.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to have some tight. At this point, a tight end off the street is probably going to get you more than Mark Andrews, and I do have him in one league, and I'm probably cutting him.
And you drafted him so high
Yeah.
that you don't want to. But sometimes it's better just to cut it off and
That's right.
move on.
Yeah, the sunk cost fallacy.
Yes.
It applies in when you're investing, and it applies here. We are not investment advisors.
Also, women. Yes, definitely. So I got the Ravens. I think Lamar is going to be a sit. I got him for 201. Just hear me out. Hear me out. Now this is a regular league, not our league. I think Henry is the must start. I got him for 125 and 2. And the wide receiver, good luck on throwing that dart at the board, is going to the lead. I guess I'll say Zay for 75 and 1, and I don't even think that's going to be the right person. But go ahead, talk me off the ledge.
Good Lord. I wish y'all could see the faces I was making at him as he said, bench Lamar Jackson. Even in a 1-quarterback league, I think you're crazy.
Bench him, I'm telling you.
I think you are insane. I think this is going to be the latest apology that we have to go through. I mean, look, this Cincinnati defense has been terrible.
I understand.
It's been terrible. Andy Dalton had a good game against him last week. Jaden Daniels scored on every single possession the week before.
Look, I'm telling you, King Henry's going to walk down that tunnel. He's going to nestle little Lamar Jackson in a little cat burrito bun. He's going to place him in a backpack, and he's going to throw Lamar Jackson on his back and carry the weight of that team for this game.
I think you're crazy.
I wish you could have saw that picture of the nestling of the Lamar Jackson. Anyway, go ahead.
I think you're crazy. Please, everyone, don't listen to Uriah. Start Lamar Jackson. If anything, I think this is a better matchup for Lamar than it is for Derrick Henry. I mean, obviously they're both auto starts, but no, I think Lamar has a really good game, and probably Zay Flowers. I would start Zay Flowers over Jordan Addison, and I'm not a Zay Flowers guy. I've never been a Zay Flowers guy.
I would take that bet every day.
I'm not betting anything.
I know. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I would take that.
Yeah.
That to me, Addison far and away better wide receiver.
I think he's a better
on
receiver.
On a team than Zay Flowers on the Ravens.
Yeah, I mean, look, going back to that draft class, yeah, I was way higher on Addison than I was Zay Flowers, but I just think situationally, Minnesota's number 2 versus Baltimore's number 1 in a really good matchup against a Cincinnati defense that has been garbage. Give me Zay Flowers over Jordan Addison.
Okay, moving on to the Bengals, and once again, I'm a Chase owner. I have to start him. I don't want to. Burrows do not start, and the running back do not start. I got Burrows for 225 and 1. I got Moss for 50. and I got little old Jamar for 75 and 1.
These are some hot takes.
I'm
I mean, I don't know why you wouldn't want to start Jamar Chase. He's been getting better and better every week.
I said I'm starting him. I don't
But
want
you said you
to.
don't want to.
I don't want to.
I
This
don't know
week,
why you wouldn't want to.
I feel like this is a bad matchup.
I mean, look, Nate Wiggins is probably going to be who's covering him, and Nate
That's
Wiggins
right.
has been good.
Yep.
That said,
It's Jamar Chase, and you got to start him. I'm not moving. I get that.
I think Chase is going to make Nate Wiggins look silly
I
at
hope
some
so.
point in this game.
I really do.
I think he's going to shake Nate Wiggins out of his cleat. What a noise we just had on this podcast.
I know that was crazy.
You should have just seen there was somebody doing a little pogo jump thing through my living room.
Right across.
Yeah, Zach Moss, I think, is still the guy to have in Cincinnati, but man, I'm avoiding that backfield. I don't want Zach Moss or Chase Brown. It's too fluid a situation, and I would try to avoid starting them. Joe Burrow's got to be a start. Fun fact: I'm in a super flex league where nobody else values quarterbacks, and so I ended up with Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, and Joe Burrow as my 3 quarterbacks in a super flex league. Wild, right? So this is Hurts is on bye, so this is the first week I'm actually rolling out Joe Burrow. First week he actually gets to start, and I'm fine with it. I'm fine with starting him. Look, Cincinnati's 1-3, but it hasn't been because of their offense. Their offense has looked pretty good. It's just that defense is a sieve.
So moving on, we have the Colts and the Jaguars.
All right, here's a fun one to talk about.
Uh-oh.
You are redeemed by injury.
Nope.
AR was looking pretty good before he got hurt.
He was going to suck. He's going to suck this week.
He was looking pretty good before he got hurt. Now, I would like to go to the gentleman who spent $36 on Joe Flacco when Anthony Richardson is probably going to play this week.
I know, that was crazy. But, look, the only way AR makes any kind of difference is if he hikes the ball at the goal line, trips, and falls over his own shoe into the end zone.
Don't get me wrong. Look, I'm not high on Anthony Richardson. It's rough. I went out of my way to avoid drafting him this year. But I think if you are someone who owns him, it's because you believe in those traits. And it's a roller coaster, but
Bless your heart.
That said, in our league, I will say, in our league, the owner, I know your alternatives, Chris. I would sit Anthony Richardson this week. I think you do have 2 better quarterbacks than Anthony Richardson. Maybe even 3, but at least 2.
Hot take. I love it.
At least 2. So I'm going to join Uriah this week on the bench AR bandwagon. And man, Joe Flacco, if this were a longer term injury, I would be pretty excited about Joe Flacco. But it's not. AR's back. Sorry, Joe. You spent $36 on a backup quarterback. This is why I didn't want to draft AR, though. Not because of his play, but because of his injury issues. I mean, he's played 5 games. No, he's played 7 games, I think. And he's gotten injured 5 times at this point. It's something like that. Here's what I know. I could be having those exact numbers wrong. There is a higher percentage of Anthony Richardson getting hurt in a game than Anthony Richardson's completion percentage.
I like it. I don't know that for sure, but
that's the stat. That is the stat so far in his NFL career.
That should
his injury percentage is higher than his completion
That
percentage.
should tell y'all everything you need to know about your rushing quarterback, AR. Now, moving on to Taylor. I think Taylor is going to have a great game. I got him for 125 and 1.
Well, I'll take that bet. I'll bet pretty much any amount of money because he's probably not going to play.
Oh, well, if he don't play, I have his backup.
Trey Sermon.
That's right. So Trey Sermon's going to have 120. Nope. So we'll just mark that one off. Pierce, who cares? Who knows? If you got him, I hope you aren't starting him.
Wild that Alec Pierce is still the leading receiver. Because he did nothing this week.
It's crazy.
He's pretty much done. I dropped him. So if you're still into Alec Pierce,
I dropped him for a reason.
You can go get him. Evan, you were interested in Alec Pierce at one point, I think. You can go get him. He is out there now on the waiver wire. He's yours for the taking. I don't want anything to do with him. I know Michael Pittman had a bounce back game. However, for me,
Bang that drum.
For
Here we
me,
go, Pittman.
It's not Pittman for me, though. It's Josh Downs, man. I love Josh Downs. I loved him last year. He was a Fulllytics guy. I didn't end up with him on my team, but I love Josh Downs, and I think he's going to be the 1B to Michael Pittman's 1A, and maybe end up being more fantasy relevant.
All right, so moving on to the Jaguars that we were just talking about earlier. Poor T-Law.
Yeah, I feel bad for him.
I feel so bad for him. I got him down for 201. I got ETN for 75. And we were talking about buys. Brian Thomas. Get him while you can, because next week is going to be too late, fellas. If you don't grab him now, just hang it up, because the owner will not let go with him the rest of the year.
Yeah, I'm getting close. I will say I was clearly wrong about Brian Thomas going into the rookie draft.
Well, you were wrong last week when you said no, Brian Thomas.
Yeah. I mean, look, I was as low as anyone could be on Brian Thomas going into the actual NFL draft, and he's already done better than that.
Yeah.
And he still has a chance to actually live up. I don't think he's lived up to where he was drafted yet, but I think he still has that potential. He's looked good, and yeah, he's a must start this week. I dare say. Trevor Lawrence at this point is kind of. Don't you have Lawrence?
No,
you don't. Okay,
no.
I'm conflating it. I don't know. I think if I were a Lawrence owner, I'd be looking at other options.
I wouldn't start him in a regular league.
In a regular league, yeah, no, I don't want anything to do with him in a regular league. If I'm in a super flex, I would still consider benching him.
Yes, understandable.
ETN, yeah, you got to start him. Bigsby keeps eating in there too. This is another one of those. There are a lot of these situations where there's somebody that's just slowly eating into those carries, but ETN's still the guy for now.
All right, moving on to one of the worst games this week would be the Dolphins and the Patriots. Am I wrong, Foley?
Can I give you a free square here? Just some free advice.
What's that?
For our Hub South listeners, and probably a lot of other listeners as well. But I know in our league, the Patriots defense is available. And this might be a good week to scoop them up and put them in if you're in need of if your defense is on bye this week, go ahead and plug in the Patriots. I'm not doing it because I like the defense I've got, but yeah, I thought about it. I still thought about swapping out defenses. It's a good one. I mean, we'll start with the Dolphins, I guess.
There's not really much to talk about.
There's really not. There's really not much to talk about. But the quarterback situation, it's Snoop, Tyler Huntley, as they're going to start him again. I mean, look, he could be better than he was last week. I think Mike McDaniel is an idiot at this point. I used to be high on Mike McDaniel.
He's grasping now.
He's really grasping. But here's the thing. He spent all of last week uncommitted to a starting quarterback, so they were all splitting reps.
I know.
And that's just rough. That's not a path to success if you don't have one guy building chemistry with this team around him. So at least this week, Snoop Huntley, Tyler Huntley, will be taking all the first-team reps, and he could look a little better. That said, I'm not interested in him at all. I know Joe scooped him up. He can have him. Yes. I don't think Huntley's going to be very good, and I think the defense will give him some fits. The only two Dolphins I will start,
Achane
and Hill, and it's getting rough for both of them. For both of them, this offense is falling apart, and it's so weird. I've never been a big Tua believer, but when Tua leaves, everything falls apart.
What's his timing?
It really is his timing. He's just so good at that one thing, getting the ball out in 2.5 seconds. And yeah, it's hard.
I got Snoop, whoever, for 125. I got Achane for 60 and 1, hoping he breaks one loose. I got Hill for a little over 75, and I'm hoping it's like a screen pass and he takes it. On the Patriots, I really don't think there's much to talk about. I got him for 125. Ramondre, I don't even think he's going to start. And then your leading receiver, Hunter Henry, for 40 yards.
Hunter Hendo. Yeah, I mean, Henry's a great backup tight end for fantasy. That's why I took him where I did. On this Patriots side, yeah, there's nobody I would start. Absolutely nobody except their defense. I have Brissett. I'm not starting him as my quarterback too. I'm going with a non-quarterback. I don't want to start Stevenson this week. I don't want to start Antonio Gibson this week. The only thing I'll say is, like, long term, if you're looking at it, maybe Jalen Polk develops over time. If you're holding on to him, maybe by the end of the year he can be something. I'm not sure. And if you're holding on to Drake May, I mean, keep holding on to him, but level your expectations. He might not see the field this year.
Well, if you're holding him in like a redraft,
yeah, just
drop him.
Cut him.
Moving on, we got the Brownies versus the Commanders, and this is probably going to be a hot take from both of us. So I will concede and go ahead, Foley.
Deshaun Watson looked better last week. He really did. He looked better last week than he did in the previous few weeks. Now, that's a low bar.
Yes.
Don't get me wrong. It's a low bar. But he showed signs of life. Washington defense, not very good. I'll start Deshaun Watson this week. I think I said bench him last week. I'll go ahead and stick him in there this week. On the running backs, I don't want anything to do with Jerome Ford. I don't think he's good. I'm just not interested in it. Please come back, Mr. Chubb.
Come on, Chubb.
Please come back. And I'll fire him up. I've managed to scoop him up in a couple leagues where people got tired of waiting and dropped him. And the receivers, I didn't realize that Jerry Jeudy is the leading receiver.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Now, that probably wouldn't be the case if...
Well, honestly, I think it's like they're only separated by like 30 or 40 yards.
Exactly. And Amari Cooper did have a big touchdown that got called back on a bogus penalty. They called holding. There was no holding. And so, I think Amari Cooper and Deshaun Watson are both viable starts. I have no idea if Njoku's back yet. I haven't really kept up with it.
It's one of those, if you got him and he starts starting, but don't spend too much time. I got Dijon for 201. I got Ford for 50, which is basically my low bar. And I like Cooper, but it's only going to be 50 and 1. Moving on to the Commanders. Now, let me talk about Jaden. Jaden has been doing good, guys. But I'm telling you, get rid of him, sell him high, do whatever you can, get him off your team. I got him for 201, and the one is probably going to be a rushing touchdown. Foley?
Man.
I know you're going to go against me, and that's fine. I understand.
Jaden Daniels is going to be a top 5 fantasy quarterback. Not this week specifically, but over the course of the year.
No shot.
Over the course of the year, Jaden Daniels is the top 5 fantasy quarterback. And look, I wasn't high on him before the draft.
Look, I don't know if y'all have ever seen, like, these memes or whatever, but there's this one meme where it's like a 1980s Asian game show, and, like, the Asian guy's like, whoa! And, like, there's a pow, bang, boom, and it's, like, going in and out. This is how I feel about Foley's hot take right now, so go ahead.
He's a top. I don't think it's even that hot. As good as he's been playing, I don't think it's a hot take at all. He's been excellent. He's just been so efficient, not just with his legs, but he's accurate.
Give me your 5 then.
Yeah. This is good. I was actually planning to get into this at the end and get your top 5, but I'll go ahead and give my top 5. Number 1, still Josh Allen. I know it's a roller coaster. I'm still going to say Josh Allen. Number 2, Lamar Jackson. Number 3, we'll say Jalen Hurts. It's getting rough. I'll still say Jalen Hurts. Number 4 is where I might put Jaden Daniels, but I'll give myself a little wiggle room, and I'll say number 4, Joe Burrow. But just because of volume, I think he's gonna end up there. And then number 5, Jaden Daniels.
Interesting. My 5 I know you'll disagree, but that's fine. I'll take Allen also. And I'll do it in no particular order because I'm looking. Give me CJ. Give me Purdy.
Y'all should have seen the face I just made.
I know. And this is really going to gross you out.
Sam Darnold. Say Sam Darnold. I dare you to say Sam Darnold.
I was going to say Love. But throw Darnold in there. Number 5. Here we go, baby.
I like it. So this is the thing to monitor through the year. Jaden Daniels versus Sam Darnold.
I like it.
We'll watch.
I like it. So moving on, we got. I think Brian Robinson is a must start.
Absolutely he is. I've got him. The one thing, he did pop up on the injury report today.
I saw that with his knee.
I'm hoping that it's just kind of a minor thing, just kind of a rest day for him. I hope it's nothing serious. Man, he's been so good.
The most messed up comment I saw on that on Sleeper was
shot
say who goes shot him.
Bless his heart.
That's so wrong.
Bless his heart. I've never. And that's a throwback to the original podcast, episode 1.
Yes.
Uriah breaking the news right after the draft. Brian Robinson got an hour after he got drafted. But look, I've never been a Brian Robinson believer, just in the talent. Man, he's been so good this year.
Yes.
I'm all in. And every running back has been good. His backup for the game, I forget who it was, hadn't played it down of football since 2021, but he filled in for Austin Eckler and had a big game. So, I mean, look, say what you want about Cliff Kingsbury. This guy is cooking. And I think he keeps cooking, so stick in Robinson.
I will say sleeper on this game, give me Ertz.
Yeah, I like that. Ertz can be a sneaky play. I think any given week he can be a sneaky, top 10 tight end. And yeah, I'll start Terry. I had to think about it. I'll start Terry.
I understand because how high you are on Jaden. I'm not. I got him for 50-1. Moving on to the Bills and the Texans, and this is going to be the best game this week. Talk me out of it.
The only thing I'll say is we thought that Bills-Ravens was going to be the best game last week.
What did somebody say today? A clock can be right twice.
Yeah. I mean, look, these are both teams that have kind of had these moments of underperforming, but should both be elite. So it's an interesting matchup for sure. I'm going to hope for a Josh Allen bounce back. It probably will happen. And James Cook, I think, is just such a fantastic football player. I
Love
think
him.
He really has developed into being just about as good as his brother was.
And talk to me about the wide receiver room.
It's your boy. It's your boy Khalil Shakir,
yes.
who I was so skeptical of. I've always been skeptical of Khalil Shakir. He's the guy. It's not exciting though. None of them are exciting.
Look, Shakir, if you can hear this and you're listening to our pod, first of all, I want to say thank you. But you can come by Hattiesburg anytime and sign my bald head. Moving on.
I mean, look, are you starting Shakir?
Yes, I will start Shakir every day.
Okay, Khalil Shakir or Jordan Addison?
Shakir only because I trust Allen more than Darnold.
I think give me Addison. I'm so uncertain in this receiving room. Shakir, Coleman's not been doing much lately, but there's still Kincaid. I don't know. Shakir is the best of the bunch, but I'm just not high on any of them at the moment. I think it's too much of a spread the ball around type of situation. I'd just as soon stay away.
So saying that, I got Allen for 275 and 2. I got Cook for 100, and I got Shakir for 101. Moving on to the Texans. What do we feel about CJ? I got CJ for 275 and 2.
You've got CJ as a top 5 quarterback.
That's right. And Allen. That's what I'm saying.
I think CJ Stroud is a very good quarterback. He's probably first off my list when I gave those top 5. So yeah, he's a must start. He's had a little bit of struggle in the last couple of weeks, but he's still great.
He's got Nico.
And he's got such a good receiving core.
He does, and Dale's back, maybe.
Yeah, that chest injury, did that have anything to do with the fact that he got shot in the chest in the offseason? I never got clarity on that. Speaking of players who get shot, and I don't think Joe Mixon starts this week, though. So
and that may change. I would love to revisit this, Sunday morning when I knew more.
Yeah.
I mean, because the running back, that could sway it. But I feel like CJ and Nico are both must starts.
Yeah. So talk to me about the others, though. Talk to me about Dell if he's back, but talk to me about Diggs as well, who just got his first rushing touchdown. Should have been worth 9 points in this league.
Oh, my Lord. The way I would look at Diggs and Dale is sort of like a dart throw. I early in the season, I felt like Dale would step it up this season. That's the reason I drafted him. It hasn't came to fruition. They haven't used Diggs. So something's up there with CJ and those two. So I would almost say right now, put your rose-colored glasses on and maybe 50 for each.
I don't think that there's anything up. I think that they're both. I mean, Diggs has played very well. And Dell, we know what he is. He can be pretty good. It's just that Stroud is happy to spread the ball around. And that's not a bad thing. It's just it sucks for fantasy. I think I would take a shot on Diggs in this game. Stephon Diggs' revenge game, of course I'm interested. He might, and they might really. C.J. Stroud seems like he'd be the kind of guy to rally around Diggs and be like, I'm going to give you a big game against your former team.
Maybe.
I'm going to get the ball to you. So, yeah, I'll fire up Diggs.
Moving on, we have the Panthers and the Bears. This was another garbage game.
Is it?
It really is.
Or is it sneaky good?
It's not. It's not sneaky good with the red rifle at the helm.
I don't know.
The leading passer out of both teams, Andy Dalton.
Absolutely. I don't know if I would start him if I had him in Superflex. Obviously, I wouldn't start him in one quarterback.
I wouldn't start either one of them in one quarterback.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't in one quarterback. Let me ask you this, though. Let me just straight up. Andy Dalton or Caleb Williams this week?
Oh, gosh. That's a good one. Dalton. Dalton, and it's Dalton. I don't even feel good about that.
I think for me, it would come down to what's the rest of my team look like. If the rest of my team I know is pretty good, I'll go Dalton and play it safe. And if the rest of my team is looking kind of sucky, I'll go Caleb and hope he has a breakout game. I think that's how I break that down. It's tough. I mean, look, man, Chuba's...
He's churning.
He's good. It's weird to say he's good. I've never really believed him to be good, but he's just kind of good.
I see you closing one eye over there saying that. I mean,
yeah. I mean, I've got him. Don't get me wrong. So I'm happy he's good. But he's kind of good. And I think he's been good enough that when Jonathan Brooks comes back, potentially this or next week, he's not going to take over that backfield. I think best case scenario for Jonathan Brooks right now is he takes over Miles Sanders' role. But Miles Sanders has actually looked pretty good too, so I don't know. In a very limited role, mind you. Deontay Johnson, what a difference a quarterback makes.
Look, I feel like
holy cow,
Deontay is the only person you can start on the Panthers. Saying that, I know what you're thinking. Saying that, Hubbard is a flex. Deontay is a wide receiver 2/flex.
You don't know everything I'm thinking. I mean, I think Chuba is a must start right now.
Okay.
I really do. I think that that's someone you've got to work into your lineup some way. And for me, that's pretty easy to do with the way my team looks. But even if you have a better team than mine, work in Chuba. I would say he's just been good enough. The other thing, and certainly not a must start, but someone to at least look at, is Xavier Legette. Xavier Legette came in hot last week.
He did.
I think he had 18 fantasy points, something like that. I'm undecided. I have him on my team as well. I'm undecided whether I'm going to start him or not, but I certainly might. He's looked good. He's benefited. He's the one who's benefited from the Adam Thielen injury, and I believe in the talent. I really do. I think he is so good. I had him right up there with the big three of Odunze, Neighbors, and Marvin Harrison Jr.
I got you. So on the Bears side, saying this, guys, Caleb, I got 175 and 1. Swift for 50. The only person I would start on the Bears would be DJ for 75 and 1. Anything on them?
I mean, the only must start is DJ Moore. Everyone else, it's kind of a look at your lineup. I have Keenan Allen in another league, and I am not starting him. I had DeAndre Swift in this league, and I was considering starting him. Evan, consider starting him. Now I have Rome Odunze, and I'm considering starting him. I haven't figured out where I land on this yet. He might work his way into my lineup. I've given you my analysis of both of those players already, but DJ Moore is the must.
Do you think the Bears can carry 2 wide receivers?
Yeah, I think over time they can.
Three wide receivers.
No.
So
I think
who's
Keenan Allen's the odd man out.
okay? That's what I was wondering. All right, moving on to another just nasty game. Do the Broncos beat the Raiders?
Yeah, they're the better coach team.
I hate to even hear that.
And they might have the better quarterback.
Oh my gosh.
I don't actually believe that. I like to talk trash about Gardner
Hot
Minshew
takes.
because I hate Brandon High School.
Understandable. I get that.
But, yeah, they are the better coach team, for sure, Denver is. So, yeah, I think I would lean toward Denver winning.
Look, and I'm not going to spend much time on this, but I got Minshew for 201. Zamir for
Don't you
50.
say Zamir.
Zamir for 50. And the only person you might be able to start in a flex or tight end position would be Brock Bowers. I got him for 60 and the lone touchdown.
I think Brock Bowers is a must-start at tight end because who the hell else are you going to start over him at tight end? I mean, there's only a few, even though he's been disappointing lately, there's still only a few other tight ends I'd rather have, and chances are you don't have them both. You don't have Sam Laporta. Sam Laporta's on bye this week anyways. So, I don't know. But Zamir White's not the starting running back for this team. It's Alexander Madison. But stay away from both of them. I've got no interest. I mean, I have no interest in anyone but Bowers for the Raiders.
Moving on to the Broncos, I got Nix for 150-1, Javonte for 50, and Sutton for 50-1. And I think that's being generous to all three of them.
Running game's getting a little bit better for Broncos. They looked a little bit more efficient than they have been. I still don't want anything to do with them, but something to keep an eye on. They got a little bit more efficient last week against the Jets. And yeah, I'm staying away from the Broncos altogether. I don't want anything to do with Sutton right now. I need to see more from Bo Nix. He's looked
terrible,
so bad.
So, well, I mean, at Oregon, all they did was dump off passes.
Yeah.
So, but anyway,
I thought he could do that at the NFL level, and they're just asking him to do a little
Tim
too much.
Tebow didn't make it. What makes you think Bo Nix is going to make it?
I thought they could just dial up
They were
bunch
the
of
same
dump-off passes.
They're the same player, except for Tim Tebow is about 75 pounds heavier. All right, so moving on to another great game, and that's just because if you like the 49ers. It's going to be the 49ers versus the Cardinals. And start with your homerism of Mr. Murray.
It's not homerism. It's not like I'm a Murray fan. You notice I didn't have him in my top 5.
Are we though? Are we really going to go that route?
I'm not a Murray guy. I just think he's better than you think he is.
I think it's terrible. But saying that, I'm a former baseball player. Kyler Murray is a baseball player playing football.
Yeah, he probably should have played baseball. But he's a good quarterback. He's still a good quarterback. 6 touchdowns, 1 interception so far this season. I'll take that. Now, he was, obviously I had him as QB1 last week, but that was before I knew that Trey McBride was out and Marvin Harrison was dealing with injury and all that stuff, which affected things. Yes, I'm backing it up. Yeah, I don't know. I don't love this matchup for any of the Cardinals, to be honest. That said, I am starting the big 3, Kyler Murray, James Conner, Marvin Harrison. If I've got those 3, I'm going to start them. I would maybe look at other options other than Conner. The San Francisco run defense has been really good lately, but you're probably going to want to start Conner, honestly. You're not going to like your alternatives.
Personally, I think Murray is a sit. 175-1. I got Conner for 75, and I think the only start on the Cardinals is Harrison for 75-1. Moving on to the 49ers. Now, let me tell you something, guys. If you own a 49er,
start him.
Put him in.
Absolutely.
Because I have Mr. Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, for 302. I got Mason for 101, and I have not 1, but 2 San Francisco wide receivers with 100 yards each and a touchdown each.
I'm gonna go more bold than you.
Let's go.
I'm gonna go not 1, not 2, but 3 49ers wide receivers. I don't know about the 100-point or 100-yard thing, but
to do good.
To do well, whether we want to say
fantasy relevant.
Exactly. I would say double-digit fantasy points.
Gotcha.
At least 3. Debo would be my odd man out.
Okay.
Actually. But I think Ayuk, Jawan Jennings, and George Kittle all get double-digit fantasy points this week.
I like it.
And Jordan Mason, huge game. Huge game. Potentially RB1 of the week, Jordan Mason.
I'm not going to say no to that. So, moving on to the Packers and the Rams. Look, guys, this is another game. If you got a Packer, start them.
Really?
Start them
Dontavian
Packers.
Wicks?
Get them in there. Love for 302. Give me Jacobs for 75 and 1. And give me Reed for 101.
You're higher on the Packers than I am, man. I don't know.
You're high on the Rams?
No. I just mean as far as who you start. I mean, I'm not low on the Rams defense. For me, it's the Packers receivers I have trouble with. Jaden Reed for sure. Start
Yeah.
Jaden Reed, but after that, I don't want Romeo Doubs. I don't want Dontavian Wicks really, and I don't think Christian Watson's even going to play. So there's that. But yeah, Love for sure start him. Jacobs for sure start him. For me though, the receivers just start.
You're not
him
starting
with Jaden
Reed?
I will start
Okay.
Reed. I do think you should
Okay.
start Reed. I just don't want the others.
All right. So the Rams is more of a who do you not start. So give me that.
Don't start anyone but Kyron Williams. I'm just out on everyone else right now. I'm out on Stafford. I'm out on every receiver.
I mean,
I thought-
Tutu Atwell's the leading receiver.
He is, and I'm not a Tutu believer. I'm not a Jordan Whitehead believer, or Whittington believer rather.
Yeah.
None of them. I just don't want Demarcus Robinson, the other guy whose name I'm blanking on. Colby Borgenson was the one that I thought could be good at tight end.
And
He hasn't done much. I don't want anyone but Kyron Williams. It's gross. And Stafford is just unplayable. I mean, he's got 2 touchdowns through 4 games this year. It's until Cooper Kupp comes back, and I think he's going to come back before Puka, is why I
Yeah.
say Kupp. Until Kupp comes back, I don't think you can start Stafford, even in a Superflex league.
I agree. So that's it for them. Let's move on to the Giants and the Seahawks. Talk to me.
I don't know, man. I can't bring myself to believe in much with the Giants.
I think Neighbors is the only person, maybe Singletary.
I'm probably still starting Singletary. Singletary's kind of on the bubble for whether I start him this week. I haven't made up my mind. It's just every once in a while, I get tempted with saying start Daniel Jones. It's not this week. Not against that Seattle defense. Stay far away from Daniel Jones.
I still think Neighbors is getting his 100.
Neighbors, if he plays, can probably still do that because he's the only Giants receiver as far as Daniel Jones is concerned. That said, he is in concussion protocol. I don't know how he's progressing.
Well, he may not play then.
He went down far. I mean, he's got a 10 game period or 10 day period rather because it was a Thursday night game last week. But he got messed up. So we'll see. If he does play though, absolutely start him up. He's the only one who can beat Jaden Daniels for Rookie of the Year. But even if he doesn't play, it's not like I want to fire up Jalen Hyatt or Wan'Dale Robinson or any of those guys. I don't want anything to do with them, even if Neighbors doesn't play. I think it's gross. I think we've seen that show before. We've seen what it looks like.
Absolutely. Move up saying that, I got Daniel for 250 and 1, Singletary for 75 and 1, Neighbors for 101. Now this is going to surprise you, Foley, but give me Geno for 301.
I don't mind it. Yeah, I don't mind it.
I think he's got too many weapons.
He's got a lot of weapons. It's a much better matchup than what he had against Detroit, and he still did okay with Detroit, I think.
Yeah, he did.
He didn't light the world on fire or anything, but he was fine. And this is, the Giants are one of the worst defenses, if not the worst defense in the NFL. So give me Geno for sure.
Give me Walker
Whew.
for 102.
All right, Foley's biggest miss of the week last week was putting Ken Walker on the bust list.
Yeah.
That was. I was wrong. Now he had one big play where I couldn't believe they didn't blow the whistle for forward progress. Like he got suplex and just didn't have a knee down, but forward progress would stop. Even still, Ken Walker looked amazing. That might have been the best he has ever looked. Maybe he just really needed that rest. But he looked awesome. Fire him up. I would say must start.
DK must
start for sure. I mean, the dude's good. I've had my problems with him, and I don't know. You can throw a dart at Stick JSN in there probably. Against this bad defense, stick JSN. I don't know how I feel.
Geno's
about Tyler
liking him.
Lockett. He is liking him. Yeah, he's building that rapport. I think Geno Smith is like calling him Lil Bro.
Yeah.
That's his little brother now. So yeah, stick JSN in there. Tyler Lockett, unfortunately, is the
Getting old.
odd man out.
I mean, he's getting
yeah,
old.
he is old. Interestingly, though, last note on this, or two more notes, I guess, real quick. JSN is doing, like, he is clearly learning from Tyler Lockett. He's doing that thing where you press X when you catch it in Madden and just go down immediately, just like what Tyler Lockett always does.
Yes.
He really is learning from the best on that, protecting himself. The other thing, if you were in another league, not our league, because I've got them, but the Seattle defense, I think that Seattle defense is good, and especially if Malik Neighbors is out, they're just going to wreak havoc on Daniel Jones in this offense. Could be a good week for them.
All right, so moving on to the Cowboys and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Let's go with Dak. What do you think about Dak? Because Dak is like, he's such a strange, like he's a decent NFL football player. What is he on fantasy?
I think you're going to like this comp I've got for Dak Prescott.
Hit me.
Dak Prescott is the Sonic Groovy Fries.
Okay.
It's not great. It's actually pretty disappointing, but it's still a potato, which is fine.
And you can dip it in the
You
ranch?
can dip it.
Oh.
You throw a little extra salt on there.
I like it. I like it. That being said, you're probably gonna hate me with this, but I got Dak for 275 and 2.
It's fine. I don't hate it. That might be a little ambitious against this Pittsburgh defense.
It could be. Rico, poor Rico. Give me 75 for him. And CD, you gonna like this? Give me 102.
Overall wide receiver 1 on the week.
CD,
Lamb. Yep.
I like it.
As much as I am worried about the Pittsburgh defense, it's the pass rush that scares the hell out of me. But the secondary does not. I think CeeDee Lamb tears up the secondary. And so, yeah, I think CeeDee's going to have a fantastic game. And Dak will be okay. He's just not going to light the world on fire. Start Dak. Don't give me any of the running backs. I am sad to report that Brandon Cooks is out,
Yep.
which really screwed me in another league, but it is what it is. That's why I've got Ray McLeod in.
I have CD and Jefferson about the same, like 1A and 1B this week. Moving on with Pittsburgh. Lord help us with Fields. Let's get Russ to cook. I'm ready for it. I'm tired of seeing Fields just drop back and run and pass for 5-6 yards.
I think you're crazy if you want to see Russ in there.
Give me Russ.
Keep Justin Fields in there. I think he's gotten better every week. He looks pretty comfortable in this offense.
He's just don't mess up guy.
He did have this one play last week. It was an awful strip sack he ended up taking. That I said it in the group chat. Oh man, that might be the play that cost Justin Fields his job. But they ended up. He looked good after that as well as before that. Here's my hot take. If I am Chris Stone in our league, and you might like this or you might hate it, Justin Fields over Anthony Richardson as your QB2.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And I don't have much faith in Fields because, like I said, I feel like he's a 90s. No, I shouldn't say that. A 2000 quarterback for the Ravens. Just don't mess up.
Yeah.
I mean, just do enough to help us get a field goal.
He for sure is that, but I think he's adding more and more. And he did have that, he was a drop away from it being an even better game. Pickens had a couple bad drops in that game, sadly.
Do you start anybody from the Steelers?
Pickens, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I think Pickens is a must start. Even though he did just have a couple bad drops, it was still a fantastic game for him. And I think I feel like they're going to be one of the teams that push for Devontae Adams, even though they're not high on his wish list. They might push for Adams. But until that happens, yeah, give me Pickens. Fire him up every single week. Najee Harris, I would start. Yeah, I mean, I would start. I know we just saw this game where the Cowboys' run defense tightened up and they shut down Devin Singletary and the Giants. But
I don't see it happening.
Yeah, the 3 weeks before that, their run defense was terrible. Let me take a shot on Najee Harris this week.
I got Najee for 75, and I got Pickens for 75 and 1. And Evan, I'm sorry you're not here, but we have the Saints versus the Chiefs. Give me, oh man. So we talked about it before the podcast, but Foley, are the Chiefs no longer the superior offense? Are they now just a defensive team and hope that Mahomes throws 3 or 4 spectacular plays?
Yeah, I mean, I think the truth is a little somewhere in the middle, but they're not. It was already kind of like this last year, where they were relying more and more on their defense. It was the best defense Mahomes had ever had in his career.
And the offense kind of came on toward the end.
It did, yeah. I think what we're really seeing with the Chiefs this year, and Mahomes is not playing his best football. Mahomes might be playing the worst football of his career right now.
He doesn't have a wide receiver.
I know, and it just got worse, and I want to talk about that too. But
start up your Kelce's.
Yeah, I think the thing about the Chiefs right now, though, is they're just so experienced. They don't get rattled, and they just know if they're patient, they'll get there. And even for the offense, it turns out okay. They're not lighting. I keep using the same phrase, lighting the world on fire. But they're doing enough, even for fantasy. They're generally doing enough. That said, yeah, it sucks to lose Rashee Rice. I do think it's great news for Travis Kelce. We've made a different excuse for him every week.
T Swift is going to be in the building. She's going to be spreading that T Swiftness to all the ladies in the stands. It's going to get Kelce rolling. He might even shave. Kelce's back.
Don't go that far.
Kelce's back.
Shave, but
Kelce's back.
Kelce might be back. I was pretty much out on him after last week, and then or the week before. But then Rice goes down, so yeah, I'm back in on Kelce for one more week. Let's see what happens without Rice. Let's see who steps up. I picked up Juju Smith-Schuster on waiver wires. I don't like Juju, but Mahomes might like him. So we'll see if he can step up into that role. And certainly Xavier Worthy has a chance to step up into that role, but I don't know if Worthy is just built physically for the kind of stuff that Rashee Rice was doing. I don't think he really was. But we'll see. I think this is a week where it's kind of watch and hope. I don't want anything. I know everyone's hyping up Kareem Hunt at this point. I think by the time Kareem Hunt gets to full strength, potential to be good, Pacheco's going to be back.
When's Clyde Allaire coming back?
Soon. He's eligible to return this
I would
week.
take him over Hunt.
You might be right. You might need to see if he's available in this league.
That was a good thought. I hadn't thought about that.
We should do that before we hit publish.
Anyway, so the Saints. Now, look, guys, I got Carr for 225 and 1. I got Kamara as a must start for 101, and Olave for 75 and 1. Mahomes 250 and 1. Running back, who cares? I think Kelce's going to have 75 and 1.
And I think you've got to start Xavier Worthy this week.
Absolutely.
Just to see.
Because you don't know.
You don't know, and his upside is good enough. Stick him in there. It might not work out, but you'll know, and you'll feel bad if you don't stick him in and he goes off. So stick him in there. Must start, I would say. But we'll know a lot more about this Chiefs offense next week. Since our co-host isn't here to either applaud or gasp, who do you think is going to win this football game?
Chiefs. I
think you're right. I want you to be wrong, but I think you're right.
I don't see the Saints doing it, but I've been wrong. So that wraps up this week's podcast. Foley, you got anything?
No, I think that's about it. Other than I think one thing I would like for us to start doing in the next couple weeks, and we kind of already touched on it this week, is revisiting our top 5 at different positions and think about. So we gave our top 5s for quarterback this week. Think about who the actual top 5 projected to go were. There was actually a lot of overlap at quarterback.
Yeah.
It was not the order, not necessarily, but other than me saying Jaden Daniels and Uriah saying Sam Darnold, it was pretty consistent with the top 5. You know, we both had Lamar Jackson in there. Did you have Jalen Hurts in yours?
I didn't have Hurts.
Oh, okay. But we both had Josh Allen in there. So there was a good bit of overlap.
I think the Eagles have to get it together, or it's going to be another sinking ship this year.
I think next week, though, stay tuned for this, guys. We're going to dive into running backs, updating who we would draft first at running back.
I like it.
Boy, that's going to be a different look than what actually happened.
I would love to do this. This would be great.
Yeah.
So, signing off, guys. And we got a lot of new stuff coming up. Hopefully everything works out. We are working on the audio. We're going to get that going. And maybe even video. So we will talk to you guys later. Foley?
See you guys.
Later, guys.